Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Career Solutions by Aashna Jain. Today, we have a very special guest with us, Mr. Anupam Shukla. He's a partner at Pioneer Legal. He's a corporate lawyer who specializes in private equity transactions. He joined Pioneer Legal as a counsel, and prior to that, he worked at DSK, where he started his journey as an associate, and he worked there till he got promoted as a principal associate. And as a lot of people in our audience are from Symbiosis University, Symbiosis Law School, it's going to be like a treat for them to have you on this show. So thank you so much, sir, for agreeing to come on this channel and for this interview at such a short notice.
Thanks a lot for having me. Thanks a lot for having me. And you can call me Anupam. We shun away from the whole sir, etc.
Right. Thank you so much. So I think I'll quickly deep dive into the questions now.
Sure.
So first of all, I think we would want you to demystify that what does an M&A lawyer do or a PEVC lawyer do? Like what are your day-to-day roles and responsibilities and what laws are you dealing with on a daily basis?
So it's pretty simple. You are largely dealing with M&A and PE transactions. Largely a situation where either a private equity player or a VC player is funding a company, or there is a acquisition of a company by an existing player in the similar business, or otherwise for either investment or diversification or horizontal or vertical expansion perspective. Now, these transactions can either be domestic or they can be cross-border, and that changes the type of laws you deal with. Other than your regular commercial laws like your Contracts Act, sale of goods, TOPA, etc., Companies Act forms a very significant portion of laws that you need to have a good grip on. And if it is cross-border transactions, of course, you would want a good idea of the exchange control laws, FEMA, the FDI policy, etc. That is the ambit of it.
Right. All right. I think you perfectly answered that. We'll move on to the next one. So, sir, I think the next question is that say a lot of students these days are looking to upskill themselves while they are still in law school and even while they graduate out of law school. So, what do you think should be the ideal steps, that one can take to upskill themselves as a budding corporate lawyer or as a fresh graduate corporate lawyer?
I'll limit my answer to if you want to ultimately be a corporate lawyer in the M&A space, more specific. I believe as a student, you don't get ample opportunities or time on your hand to really upskill yourself because you're focusing on your studies, you're focusing on your extracurricular activities, your internships, etc. But there are a lot of things you can do. You staying updated with recent developments in the laws I just mentioned in the last question, you staying updated with the market conditions, with the economic and financial conditions, you staying updated with the occurrences in the industry, like who are the iBankers, who are the private equity funds, what are the type of deals they are doing. Some of these deals end up getting into unfortunately getting into dispute or getting into the public domain because something goes wrong. In that situation, how was it dealt with? What did it end up being? How did it end up getting resolved? All of these are fantastic learnings. Like, say, for example, the whole situation with Cyrus Mistry and Tata's when he had to step down from the board. That has provided a lot of learning to a lot of corporate lawyers as to what should be done in situations like that. And more often than not, that all happened largely in public domain. The tussle between Z and its investors, Invesco, was in public domain. Follow these things. These days, most of the NCLT hearings can be accessed online. Sit through, listen to them. You will get a first-hand analysis of how a particular section is looked at.
Okay.
All of these things are important once you become a lawyer.
Right. Perfect. Also, this is one very pertinent question. I think most asked question. Like, say, what qualities are you looking for, while you hire interns and while you hire fresher associates? And for instance, say, is drafting or experience with drafting a prerequisite to getting hired at a law firm as a fresher or as an intern, irrespective?
So I'll tell you, frankly, as an intern, drafting skills are an added bonus, but they're not a requisite. Absolutely not. As an intern, what is important is your grasp over fundamental laws. your ability to display an out-of-the-box thinking, your knowledge, your experience, etc., and your ability to be gung-ho about the work. See, as an intern, you're not always going to get the best of the work. More often than not, it's going to be something which is a little simplistic or basic, and a lot of luck factor is involved. You might work at a fantastic place where a good transaction is going on, where you get a chance to display your skills, or you might just be unlucky at a time when you go and there isn't good work for you to do, and you're doing something basic or not doing anything at all. So a good factor of luck comes into play. But as an intern, so long as you are prompt, you are efficient, you have a good grasp of basic laws, that's more than enough. As an associate, things are a little different. Even as a fresher associate, there is a bit of an expectation that you will be able to draft cohesively. And you can there are a lot of things you can do to train yourself in that space. There are basic type of agreements. You can find templates of those online. You can find people who will have marked up those documents to show you how they need to how they need to look ideally, and that can improve your drafting skills. You don't necessarily always need to learn drafting skills through agreements. There are multiple different ways for you to do that, but your ability to put across something in a simple, straightforward, sound, correct, and crisp manner is what is going to count. And that may just be an email which you may be asked to draft for a client. So those are important things.
Right, understood. So, sir, in that stride, I would also want to ask you that, say, is how important is an LLM and versus how important is a course for somebody to get selected at a law firm and further, say, to get promoted at a law firm? Do you think it makes any dent in the prospective career journey that one has, or it doesn't? Like, I would want to have your.
See, my opinion will be a little colored for the simple reason that I have largely interacted with or experienced people in the fraternity who have not particularly gotten a LLM, say from ideally, if you're going for an LLM, you'll more likely than not go for a foreign LLM. You'll go to UK, you'll go to Singapore, you'll go to US if you want. I haven't seen a significant degree of difference. If somebody was a good lawyer, if somebody was a smart lawyer, if somebody was a smart individual, they are as good once they come back. If somebody, on the other hand, has been, not as great, then that situation has remained as it is. So I don't really put a lot of value to, and I will tell you why, because the kind of uh, the expenses involved in an LLM, you'd be spending the amount of money you'd be spending in an LLM is not commensurate with the value you get. See, if you have the money to spare, if you're lucky to get a scholarship, and if you want, there's nothing like an experience of staying abroad for a year, mingling with students from, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 different countries. It expands your mind, it expands your horizon, it gives you more exposure. All of those are good things. All of those are value adds, without a doubt. But if you tell me purely from a hard skill of a lawyer perspective, spending 50 odd lakhs for an LLM is not a good value proposition, in my opinion.
Right. Thank you so much for that straightforward answer on that. I think, okay, so moving on to the next one. So this is also one doubt that everybody has that, at what age and stage do we get to, say, start negotiating as like, do we become a senior associate, then we do it, or do we have to just be a partner only, then we get to do it? And how can we even learn negotiation? Because, honestly speaking, negotiation, in my opinion, is an acquired skill. It's not like a learned skill. You can't learn it, say, through a course. I mean, you can't teach it to somebody, right? So at what age and stage do we get to do it in the first place, and how can we become better at it? Yes.
See, I'll tell you, there are a few things which train you for that, subconsciously. Your argumentative skills, which you hone in college, say for example, you're doing moots and you are one of the speakers, and you are able to put forth your argument in a really good way. That's a skill which is going to directly translate in how well are you able to, say, negotiate. The second thing is, there is no age distinction for negotiation. It all depends on the type of team you are in, the how supportive your partner is, how what is the type of matter at hand. So I'll give you an example. Here at Pioneer Legal, there have been situations where a first year associate has, frankly, everybody sits in a negotiation more often than not, unless and until there's a specific reason why somebody has to be excluded because they are doing something else at the time. If you're on that matter, you are a part of the negotiation. So you can see your seniors or your partners negotiate that particular point and learn. Second is if it is a more controlled environment, say, for example, a basic document which has to be closed, and the senior has mentored you well, he will maybe incentivize you or push you into negotiating that document yourself with the counterparty. He may sit in, he may hear you talk, he may give you feedback later on. Because how else will you learn unless and until you start somewhere? And third thing, which we have also started doing now, is we have started mock negotiations where we within the firm there'll be two people of largely the same level. They'll be given a draft and they will be asked to negotiate certain portions of it, and a senior will hear them negotiate and give them the feedback. That's all to train them for actual negotiations.
Right, that's
So,
phenomenal.
but I agree with you what you said, that there is no substitute for actual negotiations. There's like, there's no course that you can learn. It comes easier to some people. It is a little difficult to some other people. But if you're good at public speaking, if you're comfortable with public speaking, if you don't get flustered, if you don't get angry, because negotiation is, as much a hard skill as a soft skill. You need to be comfortable speaking, you need to be comfortable putting your point across, you need to be comfortable gauging the emotions of the people in the room, the flow of information, all of that. A lot of it goes, sometimes you do well, sometimes you don't, but then you can't get disheartened. So it's a mixed bag.
Right. So I think which means that you're trying to say that, say, gone are the days when people used to say that if I have oratory skills, I'll go to disputes practice, and if I don't, I'll go to the corporate side. I think that doesn't sit well at all here in
No,
this
no, not at all.
discussion. All
And
right,
these days,
great.
see, people are happier sitting in a air-conditioned conference room thrashing out their differences than they are running to courts. Like the
Definitely
reason why arbitrations have become so popular is
because of ease
essentially
of
that, exactly. So why would you, if you're good at speaking, you'll make a good lawyer. That's just plain and simple.
right. Perfect. Also, sir, moving on to the next one, say, what is the basis of getting promoted at a law firm? Is it always, say, competency based in the sense that, say, if I'm good at the subject matter, I'll get promoted at it? Or is it also my ability to bring in business for the law firm? And at what stage does bringing in business for the law firm becomes rare?
Okay. So at your promotion at each level will depend on what are the skills that you need to have for that level, right? So if uh, A0 has to go to A1, or an associate has to become a senior associate, the type of skill that they need to have to show that jump are completely different from the type of skills a principal associate needs to become a partner, right? If a partner is unable to get business unless and until he is only a delivery partner and it is understood he's a delivery partner, and that's a luxury in some larger firms, uh, of course his promotion will be impacted. But an associate or a senior associate has absolutely no expectation of getting business. If he or she can, nothing like it. Fantastic. That's a added bonus. And more often than not, organizations do reward people who go out of the way and show abilities outside their determined scope. But that is not what determines your progression. For your progression, you need to have your core strengths in place, your core skills, what are required for that level. If a senior associate should be able to negotiate, your inability to negotiate will be a strike against you. If an associate should be able to have good grasp on a particular law, if you fumble over there, then that will be a strike against you. And because it's as simple as that, nobody wants to work with such a person. And if nobody wants to work with you, then you are largely unemployable.
Right.
So So those are the criteria that come into play. Of course,
so it differs at every stage according.
You see, yeah, and you're senior enough, of course, there will be expectation for you to be able to do some BD. You can't escape.
Right, definitely. Okay, now moving on to another one. Say, when interns are interning at a law firm, they usually are there, fortunately, unfortunately, for the fact that we want a call back or, we want a PPO opportunity from this firm. So, which interns, in your opinion, as a partner, stand out and who have a chance of getting such an opportunity from a law firm? Like, what, instead of just skill set, like, what do you think an intern does that, lands them with such an
And I'll tell you, it's the saddest possible thing. It goes down a lot to luck. See, there's a basic level of expertise that is expected. If you're bad, if you're shoddy with your work, if you're shoddy in your appearance, if you are lackadaisical in your attitude, if you are disrespectful, you are anyway not in the competition. So you can't expect callback. You can't even expect to be allowed to complete your internship. You'll ideally be asked to leave. Okay. But for our question, let's assume you are meeting the base criteria. You are a good resource. You do your work. You are diligent. You are helpful, and you are good at law. Okay. Now, beyond this point is where you need to be able to differentiate yourself. And how you differentiate yourself in a pool of, say, 10 to 30 people, depending on the size of the law firm, it all comes down to, I would say largely to luck. As I told you in the earlier question that, say for example, there is no delegatable work at that point in time in that firm. You may be a fantastic resource, you will not be able to shine. As opposed to that, there's a matter going on where at the right time you are able to help, you are able to justify value. Nothing like it. The team will cherish you, the team will value you, the team will fight for you. I have had situations where we have had a fantastic intern, there was a matter going on, they put in the effort, they went the extra mile, they stayed with us to help us out, and the team went to bat for them to the extent of pushing to get them a callback internship, asking them for an assessment, because everybody wants good people. The only problem is that if you are good, you also need to get the opportunity to show the firm that you're good. That is where there's a gap, which, nobody is to blame. It just happens.
So we'll move on to the next one. So I want to understand, and I think this should be the last question also for us, that say
Sure.
you were from Symbiosis, and back then in the day, in I think 2011, you had, I'm assuming that there was negligible support from college in terms of you getting an employment opportunity. I mean, please correct me if that's not true. But assuming that's true back in the day, because I think Symbiosis does really well today, they have a lot of employment opportunities, they have Day Zero as well. But for say somebody who's in the same boat as you were back then in any other college, how do you think they should charter their way through industry, considering there's this understood thing that a lot of law firms, not all, but a lot of law firms would not want to offer internships to students from all the colleges. So how do you think such students can charter their way up through to a firm like Pioneer Legal or any other better firm? Yes.
Okay, so I'll tell you frankly, I mean, when we were passing out, our college did have a pretty decent placement cell. And actually, my first start at DSK was through them. So but that being said, I mean, there are a bit of, there are issues around, how shall I put it, around getting good support or good guidance or good directions. What generally happens is students may generally try to they try a spray and pray approach. They'll apply to everybody and they'll hope they get through somewhere. And I'm not saying that it's a bad approach. I mean, if you don't have an answer, that's what is going to be. But if you maybe follow a little bit of scientific approach, if you identify that, okay, there are X number of firms, these are the ones I want to work with. And more than that, and I always say this, more than a firm, what is important is a partner. Okay. If they identify the partners they want to work with, the teams they want to work with, they tailor their cover letter very clearly, pointing out what is it that they have done, what is it that they want to, who is it that they want to work with, and why do they believe they'll be able to provide value to that person. Now, I'm not saying there's a surefire way of success. That person may or may not have space in his team at that point in time. He may or may not be recruiting, or she may or may not be planning to take uh, that level of a person. Maybe they want like somebody senior, they don't want a A0. Happens. Uh, but if this is your approach, instead of a vanilla cover letter, this is what is remembered. This is what is perceived. Whenever I get an application, HR sift through all the applications, we get a short list, I take a look at them. If they are straight, they are generic and they're talking about the type of articles you have written and the type of internships you have done, which falls in the common pool, my eyes will glaze over after a point in time. But if you are in clear 4 or 5 bullet points able to tell me in your cover letter, what is the value you think you are going to bring to the table for me, how are you going to complement the team, you've done something in this space, you've written something in this space, presented something in this space, you are able to point out, you've heard me talk about something and you are able to point out an interesting aspect which I will find informative, or you disagree with something I've said and you have analytical thought out reason for why you believe something is so and not so, that person will, I will process that CV differently, I will process that application differently, I will remember that person, I will, if God willing everything goes well, I will want to give that person a chance as compared to somebody who is just one of many. So that's what I would suggest, that apply a little bit of a scientific approach to your applications. And again, that being said, if you don't get a job when you are in college, your friends are getting PPOs and you don't have one, do not worry about it.
Yes.
Everybody gets somewhere and somewhere good. You may find something after a few months of passing out. You may end up at a average job to begin with, and from there you may pivot to a better job. You may end up with a smaller firm to begin with, you may pivot from there to a larger firm, or you may end up with a bigger firm in a sadder job and you may pivot to a smaller firm in a more fulfilling job.
Right.
All those migrations are possible, from in-house to firms, from firms to in-house. All those are possible and are easier when you are young.
Right.
You are exponentially more employable the younger you are. Maybe a difficulty for freshers, but 1 year, 2 year, 3 year associates are much in demand in the market. So please don't get disheartened, please don't worry about it, is what I would want to tell everybody, and that's what I keep telling everybody whenever they ask me these questions.
Right, great. I think, sir, one more question, if you don't mind. Just I've taken up too much time of yours already.
No worries, tell me.
So, like say you would be taking a lot of interviews also, for interns and even for associate level positions or even senior to that. So, what is that one thing that you notice that, is a deal breaker for you as a recruiting partner? Let's say that, I would definitely select this person or I would never go ahead with them just because of this one thing, if there's any in the.
See, I personally try to not have any preconceived notions or judgments about people. Okay. So if it is a personal quirk, I will definitely keep it aside, because I may find that particular thing irksome, but may not be the case for everybody. If somebody is a little too talkative or a little too shy, there are people who hold these things against them, but is not the right thing. They may be a good fit in some context somewhere. But if, as I told you earlier, if there's something fundamental which is wrong, a fundamental hard skill or a fundamental soft skill which is missing, that's a big no-no for me. If somebody is, there is a degree of professionalism expected in our business. Okay. We are arguably some of the we are a profession which where we are selling our expertise, we are selling our brain power, we present ourselves in a particular way, we put ourselves forth in a particular way, our bearing, appearance, diction, all of that needs to be of a particular level. if you want to play in this field. And that may come across as a bit elitist, but that's not the case. If you and we have seen people come from across the country, from across the backgrounds, and succeed. Okay, it's all possible. There is no embargo anyway. I myself come from a very small town. uh, but these are the things, these are the skills you need. You will fail without them. So if you are, as I told you, indisciplined, you are shoddily attired at your interview, you are late at your interview, unless and until there's a really good reason, you are uh, rude, callous. All of these things, they leave a very bad taste in the interviewers. Uh, so you don't want that to happen. You may otherwise possess some fantastic qualities, they get overshadowed because of these things. Those are the things where I've generally shied away from giving somebody a second chance.
Right.
So that is something I would hope people would improve. Something as simple as your cover letter and your CV, make sure that it does not have typos, make sure it's grammatically correct, it's well formatted. I mean, it's a one pager or two pagers at max. Make sure that if you can't show attention to detail over there, the expectation on a 200-page document is commensurately much higher. So it's a bit difficult otherwise.
Right, right. Thank you so much, sir, for all of these questions. It has been a great learning experience, even for me also, like to get it from a partner's perspective. So thank you so much. Do you have any last advice for students? And I think then we can wrap this session.
No, I guess I've given a lot of gyan today. It's
Right.
I would just tell people that it's don't stress too much, don't worry too much about these things. Things work out, and things work out fantastically well for almost everybody. If there are things you need to fix, those are easy fixes, those are identifiable fixes, and there are ample people willing to help you. Like there's a LinkedIn itself has a very warm and supportive community, is what I've found. There are people willing to express their experiences. You read, you talk to people, you get to learn a lot. There are ample support systems, including people like you, which also helps. So do all that, improve wherever improvement is needed, and don't worry. I mean, have fun in college as well. That's one of the most interesting part of being in college.
Right. I'm glad you said that. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah.